Hello, everyone, and welcome to SAT Pacer. We will look at the second passage of the official practice test number 2 by the administrator of the SAT College Board. Before we proceed to the passage, let's quickly review our reading guidelines. Number 1, our mind is much faster than our ability to speak. So keeping that in mind, we need to allow our mind to go ahead and let our eyes run the reading process as opposed to trying to pronounce every word as we read. Number 2, we will use tracker to pace ourselves through the reading. It is more of an approximation of the speed that you may want to follow. It is clearly okay to fall behind or go ahead. So don't feel like this is in any sort of a limitation. It's fine to do both. Next, we need to remember that what we're trying to do is not to remember every detail, but to size up the text and map it. We do plan to return to it when we'll be answering the questions. Normally, each text is followed by 10 to 11 questions. And finally, the details, as we mentioned, we can't keep everything in our head, so we need to be comfortable with the uncertainty. And remember that we can just go back at a later point and dig into the details. Let's start with the first part of the text. Let's try to size up the text. So in the very beginning, we see that it is about the economy and about the questions of right and wrong. The second paragraph gives an indication and brings up words such as ethics and immoral. As we move on in the third paragraph, there is a key sentence describing a position that by Adam Smith. And the sentence says, Smith justifies selfish behavior by the outcome. Let's proceed. Let's stop for a moment. So the next paragraph goes into Aristotle's position, and his position is summarized by the words of the right character. So he was all about the character. And then the third position, instead of character or consequences, which is the summary of the first two positions discussed, the third one, it goes into actions. Let's proceed. So to map it out, the first paragraph on the screen discusses the three versions and specifically about the coexistence of them all, that there is that potential case when the three versions might coexist. And then the following two paragraphs discuss the psychology of people and how it is hard to understand and predict people's behavior. So psychology is probably the key word here. Now let's proceed to the first question. The main purpose of the passage is to. So our attention should be very much focused on the word passage here. It is about the main purpose, so we need to synthesize the information from the whole passage as opposed to specific small bits and pieces within the text. Answer choice A, consider an ethical dilemma posed by cost-benefit analysis. So at this point, let's consider answer choice A as possibly correct. The text does discuss some ethical issues, and cost-benefit analysis is a big part of economics. So at this point, let's leave it there. Describe a psychology study of ethical economic behavior. Psychology does come into play, however, only toward the end of the text. Since this question is about the whole passage, this is a little too narrow for us, and on the precision criteria, we will eliminate this answer choice. Choice C, argue that the free market prohibits ethical economics. We can cross this one out because the text argues that free market is one of the ethical economics approaches. Choice D, examine ways of evaluating the ethics of economics. So nothing wrong particularly with this answer choice because the text is about the ethics of economics. So let's see which of the two remaining ones has a flaw. So answer choice A states, consider an ethical dilemma posed by cost-benefit analysis. And like we discussed, there was a point where the discussion was about how ethics can coexist with the cost-benefit side. So on those grounds, we can eliminate answer choice A and stick with the answer choice D. In the passage, the author anticipates which of the following objections to criticizing the ethics of free markets. Answer choice A, Smith's association of free markets with ethical behavior still applies today. This response is a bit too nuanced for us, and it might require additional work. Since we're trying to be efficient, let's leave it aside and see what we can eliminate. And if we come down to two answers, then we can look deeper and see if answer choice A is the correct one. Choice B, free markets are the best way to generate high profits, so ethics are a secondary consideration. Since this question about how author feels about it, and we read the whole text, and it wasn't very obvious that the author had this kind of sentiment, we can pretty comfortably eliminate answer choice B. Choice C, free markets are ethical because they're made possible by devalued currency. If we were careful enough, we should know that free markets is something that Adam Smith believed in. And the discussion of devalued currency comes when the third version, the one of actions, comes up. So this is a mismatch. And while both have place in the text, this is an incorrect answer. Choice D, free markets are ethical because they enable individuals to make choices. If we read somewhat carefully, we should remember this discussion in the second paragraph where the text states, some argue that because the free markets allow for personal choice, they're already ethical. If we miss this part, then we can more or less focus on answer choices A and D as we go back to text. Considering that this question is quite nuanced, you may want to check the next question if it offers any specific lines to support the answer choice in this question. And it so happens that in this case, we do have that. Let's mark down the correct answer for question 12, which is answer choice D. Question 13. Which choice provides the best evidence for the answer to the previous question? As we discussed, this type of question comes up sometimes, And it's not a bad idea to check forward whenever you face very nuanced questions. In our case, we know that our answer choice is choice A. As used in line 6, embraced most nearly means. With this kind of question, we need to make sure to look at the context. And in this case, let's go back. If we look here, the word embraced refers to corporate social responsibility. So answer choice A, lovingly held, is out of contention since it's just too literal. The same applies to eagerly hugged. Of the remaining two choices, readily adopted and reluctantly used, we will choose the safer option, which is answer choice B. The main purpose of the fifth paragraph, lines 45-56, is 2. So for reference, let's pull up this part of the text. If we read carefully, this question offers us a great opportunity to save some time. This paragraph goes into describing a third approach to defining ethical economics. Answer choice C. As used in line 58, clashes mostly nearly means. As with other vocabulary questions, we require context. So let's pull it up. In this case, the discussion is of the abstract concept of ethics and economics. So the word clashes would not be any of the literal meanings of this word, such as collisions and brawls, which means we can eliminate answer choices C and D. Of the two remaining choices, conflict better captures the context. Which choice best supports the author's claim that there is common ground shared by different approaches to ethics described in the passage? This question is perfect for our map. We will look back at the text and recognize that part where the author, after describing the three approaches, claims that all three can coexist. This leads us to answer choice C, lines 59-64. The main idea of the final paragraph is that. So let's refer to the final paragraph. Since this is the main idea question, we need to make sure that the answer that we pick does describe the main point of the paragraph. Answer choice A, human quirks make it difficult to predict people's ethical decisions accurately. This is a passing point in the paragraph. However, this is not why the paragraph was written. The meaning of this paragraph is more around this neuroscientists getting involved with economists and trying to understand the psychology of customers. So it is more about going to the next step of understanding. Answer choice B has the same problem. People universally react with disgust when faced with economic injustice. This is, again, a passing point, but this is not why this paragraph was inserted. And this is a main idea question. Choice C, understanding human psychology may help us to define ethics and economics. This answer looks quite probable since this paragraph discusses human psychology and how that may help us move forward. So let's move on to the answer choice D. Economists themselves will be responsible for reforming the free market. While this answer choice might sound probable because of all the buzzwords from the text, since it does discuss economists and they come up in the final paragraph, this paragraph, however, is not about reforming the free market. It's more about understanding human behavior. So our final choice will be answer choice C. The final three questions will refer to the chart that we get and will test our data interpretation skills. Question 19, data in the graph about per pound coffee profits in Tanzania most strongly support which of the following statements? So if we briefly look at the graph, we can understand that there is years graphed on the x-axis, 2000, 2002, and so on. and amount in US cents per pound graphed on the y-axis. And the chart is about regular coffee profits compared to fair trade coffee profits. And fair trade coffee is marked with the circle, empty circle, and the regular coffee prices is the dark line with a dark circle. Choice A, fair trade coffee consistently earned greater profits than regular coffee earned. If we look at the graph, this is clearly a correct answer. So if we're pressed for time, I would be very comfortable with bubbling it in and moving on. However, let's look at other answer choices just to make sure that we're not rushing here. Choice B, the profits earned from regular coffee did not fluctuate. If we look at the graph, we can see that the regular coffee profits is the dark line with the dark dot. It is fluctuating, going up and down. Choice C, fair trade coffee profits increased between 04 and 06. So since the line is more or less flat for fair trade coffee, which is with the empty dot, this is an incorrect answer. And answer choice D, fair trade and regular coffee were earning equal profits by 2008, and that is clearly incorrect since we can see that in 2008 the profits were around 60 for regular coffee and about 135 or so for the fair trade coffee. 20. Data in the graph indicate that the greatest difference between per pound profits from fair trade coffee and those from regular coffee occurred during which period? So in this case, we're looking where the gap between two lines is the largest. And if we look at the graph, it is pretty clear that the answer would be answer choice B, between 2002 and 2004, because that's where the gap between the two lines is the largest. Since the fair trade coffee profits haven't fluctuated, it's a straight line more or less, we can pretty much focus on the regular coffee prices. Final question 21. Data in the graph provide most direct support for which idea in the passage? So we understand the graph is a representation of profits for fair trade coffee or the good coffee, or let's say ethical coffee, and regular coffee, which is not the ethical kind of coffee. Answer choice A, acting on empathy can be counterproductive. So in this case, we see that fair trade coffee is more profitable. So in this case, we can disagree with the answer choice A and cross it off. Ethical economics is defined by character. So let's leave it alone. There is a jump in logic here since now fair trade is connected to ethical economics, but then character is some philosophical introduction to this thing. So let's cautiously pass on this one for now. Ethical economics is still possible. So if we look at the graph, we can see that fair trade coffee is profitable. So ethical economics is possible. So this answer choice is very good. And final answer choice D, people fear losses more than they hope for gains. Again, our chart or graph doesn't really show us anything about fear of losses or hope for gains. It's strictly the representation of profits. And since fair trade coffee is ethical, we'll go with the answer choice C.